If Marvel learns a few valuable lessons from X-Men and prioritizes putting the best writers and artists on Amazing Spider-Man and Avengers moving into 2020, it's going to be lights out for the rest of the industry for a year or two at least. During my analysis of July's comic book sales, I made the not so bold prediction that Marvel was well positioned to dominate the market, riding the success of Hickman's X-Men relaunch, the future releases of Marvel Comics 1000 and Absolute Carnage. Marvel already features a diverse array of ongoing hit comics with Amazing Spider-Man, Immortal Hulk, and Venom. Dominate was the right word because Marvel posted the largest dollar market share ever recorded since Diamond began reporting final order shares in August 1997. Marvel owned the comic book market like never before seen in August 2019. I'm going to talk about why this happened and what it all means moving forward. I'm going to cover a report on strategic market trends and give my analysis first. Then I'm going to dig into August comic sales numbers in finer details. I'm then going to provide Comic-Con's August comic sales summary before I look into trends for Marvel Comics' best-selling ongoing titles Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk, two series that experienced substantial dips in sales to retailers. I'm then going to talk about the staggering success that is Absolute Carnage. You need to see these sales numbers to believe them. Without further ado, let's dig into August comic and graphic novel sales. ICV2.com reports sales of comics and graphic novels at comic stores in August were down 5.76% compared to August 2018, an impressive performance in a month with one fewer week than the year ago period, according to information provided by Diamond Comic Distributors. Comic sales were up 0.64% despite the shorter month, while graphic novels were down 20.11%. Year-to-date, sales are now near flat, down 0.26% versus the same period last year, with comic sales up 0.92% and graphic novel sales down 3.24%. Marvel's market share once again reached nearly twice the share of number 2 publisher DC Comics, and Dynamite Entertainment once again led Boom Studios to hold the number 6 spot, behind strong sales of both its periodical and graphic novel lines. You can't find two companies moving in opposite directions faster than Marvel and DC. Marvel is as hot as they've been at any point the past 5 years. While DC and the rest of the comic industry sales continue declining, Marvel's increases are basically holding the industry sales steady across the board. Some of this can be attributed to their flood the market strategy. They've already released 120 more new comics in 2019 compared to the same time period a year ago. But the real difference maker right now is quality. There isn't a hotter property on the market than X-Men, and Absolute Carnage is outperforming all other industry events in recent years. By all accounts, the overwhelming success of Hickman's X-Men is a complete shock to Marvel leadership. They never conceived that putting a premier writing talent on one of their premium IPs would increase sales and interest to this degree. As they say, it's better to be lucky than good sometimes. Marvel's August dollar sales are up 6% compared to last year, and their 46.15% dollar share is the highest ever recorded since Diamond began reporting final order shares. DC, on the other hand, is ice cold. Deceased and Doomsday Clock are mega hits in today's market, but both are limited series, and technically Doomsday Clock should have completed its run almost a year ago. DC is having a hard time moving any title not featuring Batman front and center. Their only August debut of note is You're the Villain flagship Batman Superman, and I don't believe for a second it's going to be shipping over 80,000 copies after issue 2. DC needs You're the Villain to hit like Dark Knight's Metal, and that's just not happening. Most readers are waiting for the event to end so their favorite titles will no longer be infected by Scott Snyder's latest biggest idea ever, rather than buying more tie-ins to take in the entire event. DC delivered 64 new comics in August, but that number is inflated when you take into account the 12 issues that received cardstock variants. They really only released 52 new comics. Thus far, DC has released 524 new comics in 2019 compared to 624 at the same point last year. If you take the cardstock variants from July and August into consideration, the actual number of new SKUs is in the high 400s. DC's dollar share of 24.86% is the lowest recorded since October 2015. DC is trending down right now and don't have anything generating buzz scheduled in the near future. Newsarama is reporting Marvel Comics dominated the top 10 comic book sales chart in August 2019 and the market share charts overall, but 4 shipping weeks compared to 5 in August 2018 leaves the direct market still uncertain if the year is going to be up or down. According to figures released by Diamond Comic Distributors Friday morning, Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's Absolute Carnage #1 and Marvel's 80th anniversary themed celebration Marvel Comics 1000 flip-flopped as the best-selling titles in August. The $7.99 Absolute Carnage #1 was the most ordered title of the month, while the $9.99 Marvel Comics 1000 generated the most dollars by retailers. In terms of units ordered, Marvel had 7 of the top 10 titles, including the second and third issues of Jonathan Hickman's House of X and Powers of 10, which together occupy the 4 through 7 chart positions. Interestingly, House of X #3 charted higher than House of X #2, which is a dynamic worth watching when the September charts release. Joshua Williamson and David Marquez's Batman Superman #1, spinning out of the Batman Who Laughs, ranked #3 for August, one of 3 DC titles in the unit top 10. With Image's The Walking Dead now off the table as a periodical, IDW Publishing's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles '97 at number 44 was the highest charting non-Marvel DC title. But speaking of The Walking Dead Volume 32, the final new volume of the Image series was August's best-selling graphic novel. Marvel Comics had an August to remember, paced by the overwhelming success of Donny Cates' Absolute Carnage, Marvel Comics 1000, and Jonathan Hickman's X-Men reboot. Marvel placed 7 comics in the overall top 10 by dollars sold and units shipped, and not a single one of them were priced under $5. Absolute domination on Marvel's part. One curious thing of note is the rather large drops in orders for Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk, which were perennial top 10 books prior. There's a couple reasons for this, and I'm going to explain this in detail during my trending down spotlight later in the video. Led by Absolute Carnage's 6 associated debut issues, Marvel released a hefty slate of 23 #1 issues in total. Black Cat, which looked like a breakout hit candidate, fell back to earth in August, shipping in the mid 40,000 range. Some of you may ask how Marvel has basically a 50% unit share this month and only a 46% dollar share despite so many premium priced books in August. The answer is overships, and lots of them. Venom, one of Marvel's consistent selling ongoing titles, even received a relatively small 10% overship. Debut comics Spider-Ghost, Future Foundation, and Age of Conan Valeria all received a 100% overship in August. So when you see Future Foundation canceling its run at 5 issues, despite shipping a healthy 42,000 copies for its debut, it's because 42,000 comics weren't bought and paid for. It was actually more like 20,000, and I imagine orders for the follow-up issues must have been exceptionally anemic to warrant such an early cancellation. Valkyrie Jane Foster #2 and Magnificent Miss Marvel #6 also appeared to receive 100% overships despite not being #1 issues. In spite of a lighter showing than normal, DC has 3 titles in the top 10 by units shipped. Joshua Williamson's Batman Superman had a fantastic debut, but I personally doubt it's going to be a perennial bestseller due to the lukewarm interest in and DC spoiling so much of Year of the Villain. But it's definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on moving forward. DC desperately needs another ongoing hit besides Batman. Tom Taylor's Deceased continues moving units like gangbusters, and September saw the first spin-off comic. I expect them to try and milk Deceased for all it's worth moving forward. The big news is Batman is once again the best-selling ongoing title in the industry. Turns out Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk's numbers weren't quite what they seemed the last few months. Batman has also seen a slight sales increase due to the start of Tom King's final City of Bane story arc. Frank Miller's Superman Year 1 Book 2 saw a 25% drop in orders from Book 1. Still, its $8 price tag landed Superman Year 1 Book 2 in the top 5 comics by dollars sold. Sean Gordon Murphy's Batman Curse of the White Knight is selling quite well. If I had to pick one thing DC is producing right now that could really generate enthusiasm and huge sales, it's the standalone Murphyverse SGM's been teasing on social media. My one concern is they aren't striking while the iron is hot like Marvel is with X-Men and Absolute Carnage. I think DC leadership are going to regret not going all in sooner on the Murphyverse. DC released 2 Year the Villain one-shots, and sales are not encouraging to say the least. Both comics shipped 26,000 issues, even though one was written by Tom Taylor, one of the hottest writers at DC. Besides the debut issue of Batman Superman, Year the Villain appears to be a dud. I talked to a couple retailer friends, and they say customers are waiting the event out rather than buying into all the tie-ins. It's too bad. DC needs Year the Villain to hit to try and keep pace with the runaway train that is Marvel Comics. Besides Batman Superman, none of DC's 3 other #1 issues made any impact of note. Next, let's see what insight Comic-Con analyst John Jackson Miller provides regarding August comic book sales. The question going into August was whether Marvel Comics 1000, Absolute Carnage #1, and Hox Pox, the bi-weekly alternating House of X Powers of 10 combo from Marvel, would add enough to the month to offset the fact that August 2018 had an additional shipping week. They were not, though they went some distance toward it, according to data released by Diamond Comic Distributors. This August orders were down year over year by a smaller amount than July's orders were up. And that was the month that got the extra Wednesday this summer. As a result, July and August combined this year, clocking in a slight increase over the same 9-week period last year. So we find that after a $45 million month, things are basically still flat for 2019 so far, with retailer orders through Diamond standing at nearly $343 million to date, down less than $1 million from the same 8 months in 2018. The largest shortfall in the month by far was in graphic novels, down 20% in dollars versus last August. There was a major sale of graphic novels that month, with many deep discounts. The calendar year certainly played a role, as 10% fewer graphic novels were released. But it's also reasonable to speculate that the big ticket comics had the effect of drawing dollars away from that category. All but 2 of the top 10 comics by units were priced at $4.99 or above. There's a good chance of record-breaking average cover prices once the full estimates are reported. Now it's time to talk about a couple trends of note. Some may have noticed Marvel Comics' Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk August sales declined steeply from the previous months when they are out shipping DC's perennial ongoing king, Batman. One reason we saw steep declines from both titles is many comic shops operate on budgets, and August was one of the most expensive pre-order months in recent memory. Marvel Comics 1000 was $10. Absolute Carnage #1 and Superman Year 1 were both $8. All 4 Hickman X-Men books, Absolute Carnage #2 and Batman Curse of the White Knight #2, were all $5 comics. Some shops likely opened extra funds for these issues by drawing down their Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk orders. Also of note, Marvel Solicit somewhat hinted Immortal Hulk was ending soon, which it's not, and that affected the title's momentum. But the biggest factor is Marvel removed or loosened ordering requirements for several connecting variants and party variants. As we can clearly see here, Marvel's predatory ordering practices can greatly alter one's perception of the market. Their requirements for connecting and party variants increased orders for Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk upwards of 10 to 30%. That's an enormous impact, and these aren't overships that don't affect a comic shop's bottom line. These are physical copies LCSs are forced to buy, knowing they likely can't sell, to gain access to limited variants that are far more desirable to speculators and collectors, and therefore more lucrative. It's a garbage practice, and I absolutely despise it. This is a big reason why I'll never fully get on board Marvel Comics. They abuse their business partners and customers far too often. However, Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk remain the second and third best-selling ongoing titles in the industry and are very, very healthy. Despite Tom King's terrible writing, Batman remains king until Jonathan Hickman's ongoing X-Men series launches in October. Before I wrap up today's analysis, we need to talk about what a massive hit Absolute Carnage is. Marvel released 7 Absolute Carnage titles, and they all landed in the top 50 comics by units shipped and dollars sold. That doesn't even count tie-in issues from Venom, and I think Amazing Spider-Man as well. Only Scream appears to have benefited from an overship, which appears to have been a 50% overship ratio. That's likely due to Marvel's spin-off ongoing Scream title scheduled to release in November. Even if Scream didn't overship, it still would have landed in the mid-30s by units shipped. I guarantee you this is what Marvel were hoping for from Age of X-Men and War of the Realms. Neither series came close to touching the immediate impact of Donny Cates' Absolute Carnage. If Marvel is really smart, they'll move Cates onto the Amazing Spider-Man or Avengers title when he completes his cosmic work in December. Cates is white hot right now and moves units no matter the title he's on. My preference would be Cates with artists Ryan Stegman and Patrick Gleason on Spider-Man. I guarantee that comic would ship well over 100,000 issues twice monthly. Pair that with the success of Hickman's X-Men, and DC would be eating Marvel's dust for at least 12 months. Put someone like Ed Brubaker or Grant Morrison on Avengers, and there would be nothing DC could do. Not even Batman and Superman could save them. Marvel is exceptionally close to a sustained period of utter market domination. That wraps up my analysis of August comic industry sales. Marvel had an amazing month of sales led by Absolute Carnage, Marvel Comics 1000, and Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. DC's Batman is still hot, but they need another character or title to catch fire soon. It doesn't appear You're the Villain is resonating with fans, while Marvel Comics heats up month after month. When Absolute Carnage finishes in November, they launch their $20.99 event. I don't think it will be as successful as Absolute Carnage, but I don't see anything slowing Marvel down in 2019. If Marvel learns a few valuable lessons from X-Men and prioritize putting the best writers and artists on Amazing Spider-Man and Avengers moving into 2020, it's going to be lights out for the rest of the industry for a year or two at least. Please join me for tomorrow's DC Comics December solicitations analysis, as well as in about a month when I break down September's comic industry sales. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.